CNN sucks. That was the chant people were yelling at a Trump rally in Tampa. CNN sucks over and over again, as I think it was Jim Acosta was trying to do a stand-up. And, you know, it's like, I think a lot of people have no sense of humor, or they're just too fidgety, or maybe it's because I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and it's kind of hard to make me worry about my safety to a certain extent. I mean, like, when you've been shot at, and there have been, like, murders a lot in Chicago, hearing about a bunch of people chanting that they don't like CNN, I'm like, okay, let me just tell you what happened. Jim Acosta was in Tampa, he's doing a stand-up, everyone turns around, starts chanting, okay, we got that. CNN, Jim Acosta, well, I got the story pulled up here. This is actually a rebuttal from Ben Shapiro, but Jim Acosta, he tweets about it. This Tony Marrero, I don't know who Tony Marrero is, but he says, here's the view from the press pen after Trump lobbed his first fake news and mocked the media. Let's watch this, because let's watch this. So apparently, this crowd's booing the media. And there's a really funny thing that should be pointed out about all of this. When Jim Acosta freaks out, and freaks out a little hyperbolic, but when he says, what he said, just a sample of the sad scene we faced at the Trump rally in Tampa. I'm very worried that the hostility whipped up by Trump and some in conservative media will result in somebody getting hurt. We should not treat our fellow Americans this way. The press is not the enemy. Oh, boo-hoo, oh my God. How many times has various media, it's not CNN, I'm not gonna point the finger at CNN in this context I'm about to give you, but how many media outlets have defended Antifa, defended the violence, or claimed, like Vox, that Antifa only attacks white supremacists? Yes, if the narrative is that every single Trump supporter is a white supremacist, sure, that makes sense, but we know that's not true. And only people who aren't paying attention genuinely believe that Trump supporters are all white supremacists, because that is insane. And then, they even have people say, there's a saying among many left-wing activists that not all Trump supporters are white supremacists, but all white supremacists are Trump supporters. That's also not true. That's ridiculous. Let me play this video for you, because I want to talk, it gets even more stupid. That guy's got a chance to fuck the media. Stop lying. You suck. So Trump always plays the same music at his rallies. For whatever reason, I think it's a licensing issue. But let me just point something out. Jim Acosta is worried that someone will get hurt because a small group of people were chanting and giving him the finger, and not even everyone in that crowd are yelling expletives and swearing. A couple people flicked him off. What do you think it's like when protesters go out and do the same thing? Jim Acosta, what do you think it's like for people like Ben Shapiro when he goes to a university and has larger groups of people and they're actually throwing things? One woman at Ben Shapiro's event got her head bloodied and she had to get carried out. What do you think about Milo's event? Look, I get it, people don't like Milo, but should they be throwing Molotov cocktails and smashing windows? This is such an elitist, how do you want to describe it? So removed from what's actually happening in this country. Now look, I understand Antifa's a small group, small bunch. These rallies, Patriot Prayer, Proud Boys, small bunch. We shouldn't act like that is the entirety of what's happening, because the truth is, even among people like this, these protesters, they don't pay attention 24/7 to the news, and they're not going out protesting. They have jobs, they work. And even among the left, it's the same thing. Most people don't care and aren't paying attention. I'll tell you what they really care about. Game of Thrones, the next season, what's going on, who's doing what, what's going on with the book, there's gonna be a spinoff. I don't know if people care about Westworld anymore. The point is, I saw this tweet from Jim Acosta, and it's got a ton of, it's got 72,000 likes, 70,000 replies, and I thought to myself, the media attacks on conservatives have resulted in conservatives being attacked. So you're gonna act like this small group of what looks like maybe a couple hundred people leaving a Trump rally, presumably, yelling at you. And it's not even, it's only a few of them are yelling. And then you're going to be like, it's so sad. The press is not the enemy. Oh, come on, dude. There's very little difference politically between you as a journalist and opinion guy, because you are, we all are, and the average person who has an opinion on social media. Let me make something clear. People like Jim Acosta don't seem to realize, and Jim, I mean no disrespect, but I don't think you realize that as social media has exploded to the point where anyone has a voice, you are not in a special class anymore. The press. Right. I started my career by being a dude with a cell phone. And everyone was like, wow, congratulations, Tim. Oh my God, Tim, you're doing such a good job by going out there in the street and filming things. Until I filmed things they didn't like. And then they said Tim's, a shill or whatever. And depending on who you ask, both sides have their groups attacking me and accusing me of lying. But one thing I know for sure, because I didn't go to J school, they call it. I didn't start my career, I should say. I did work in newsrooms, but I didn't start my career at these big companies going like, we're the press, the bastions of truth. No, I said, listen, that guy down there in the crowd can tell you what happened at that Trump rally, same as Jim can. And Jim's biased because they don't like the press. And the guy down there's probably biased because they don't like the press. So if you were to ask, if I was going to go down and try and figure out what happened, I'd say, Jim, what happened? Hey, guy, what happened? And the guy down there at the bottom, the guy, the flag on his shirt, he's going to say, oh, we were just yelling at him. It's no big deal. Jim's going to be like, it was scary. It was a sad scene. I'm fearful for violence. And if you only talk to Jim, yeah, people are like, I'm sure when he tells people this story or when he shows this video, the left are going like, oh my God, it's so violent, Trump supporters. Actually, I think there's we have a tweet about this. It's actually funny. This guy, Benny Johnson, I don't actually know who he is. He said, not a single tweet in Acosta's timeline about teenager Hunter Richard, who was assaulted, had his MAGA hat stolen, and was called a racial slur by a leftist while sitting peacefully in a Texas restaurant. People are already getting hurt. They just happen to be Trump supporters. And it's true. It absolutely is. I want to separate. Okay, a lot of people get mad. They're like, why does Tim accuse the right of attacking the left? I'm not saying run-of-the-mill Trump supporters are walking up to random people and beating them. When I talk about left-wing and right-wing violence, I'm talking about the far-left Antifa attacking regular folks, and I'm talking about extremist groups and fringe far-right people like crazy nationalists, white supremacist kind of people who go out and kill people. And I know then a lot of people are like, that's not right-wing. Okay, it's colloquial. I get it. There's no perfect way to define these things. The point is, there are extremists on the left, the right, and from, as Maajid Nawaz says, the heavens above, those religious extremists. It doesn't mean that all of the violence is coming from one side or the other, okay? There are instances where people who have been presumably Trump supporters have attacked the left. But overwhelmingly in the press, I would say maybe like 9 out of 10 times, we hear stories about Trump supporters getting attacked, okay? Just so everyone understands that. And I think that's fair because if you do a Google search, that's all you'll see. So I'll entertain the possibility I'm wrong and Trump supporters are attacking the left more, but I just don't see it. It's not being reported. We're not seeing people come out and talk about it. And we are seeing a lot of fake attacks, people claiming attacks happened, and that's not true. So I am of the opinion the left is more likely to attack, ridicule, berate, and harm regular people than the right. But I do believe the far-right extremists, like I'm talking like crazy nationalist white supremacist types, are more likely to kill. We did see some people on the left, it's true. But let me read this quote, because this person responded to this guy, Benny. When the number of Trumpkins who are assaulted equals 1/10 of the number of minorities who are assaulted and killed by Trump supporters, maybe your argument will have merit. Until then, it's just whining. I'm sorry. I've been on the ground for years, and I have never been to an event put on by the left where a bunch of right-wing people stormed in and started beating people. And yes, I went to a bunch of Bernie rallies. I went to a bunch of Trump rallies. And the fighting is usually like, you look at what's going on with Patriot Prayer on the 4th. They're going to march peacefully. And Antifa says, we're going to show up. Okay, just don't show up. If Antifa doesn't show up, Patriot Prayer gets to walk around, wave the little flags, and they're going to go find beer somewhere. But no, Antifa wants to confront them. So I find this particularly funny that Jim is so far removed from what's going on that he's actually scared that Trump people are going to hurt someone. What, you mean like that old woman who flicked you off? That old lady's going to go back, sit in her lounger, put on Fox News, and enjoy a nice cold beer. She's not going to go out marching in the streets with a Molotov cocktail. That's ridiculous. And the rest of these people are probably in the middle of nowhere, far from cities, rural counties, and they're working jobs. This is Tampa, Florida. Okay, so they're in a city. I don't want to, but I'm sure a lot of these people live in the surrounding areas far away, and they're not going to be driving their cars to go march through the streets throwing rocks at people. It's the younger people who do that. Okay, so let's I don't want to rattle on too long, but let's talk about Ben Shapiro here. Ben Shapiro said, "The reason people are annoyed by this tweet is that we have seen Trump supporters physically attacked at rallies, congressmen shot, and conservatives run off campus at physical risk. But Acosta and the media that downplayed those stories for years think history began today." Hear, hear, Ben Shapiro. You know why I really like Ben Shapiro? Because I believe he is being intellectually honest, right? He is acting in good faith. I totally disagree. I'd love to debate him because I think, debate's not the right word, because I don't think, I think anyone who's smart enough to actually, understand what's going on would realize a dialectic is actually what would happen. I think there's a lot of opinions that Ben has that I'd love to challenge. I'd love to be like, hey, if you believe, on his pro-life stance, I've got some arguments for you. But I think it would be more of a really interesting conversation. And so, as someone who very, very, very much disagrees with Ben Shapiro on a lot of issues, I find it fascinating that I can look at his tweet, and he's somebody who didn't like Trump, and he talks about, he's a sometimes Trumper, and he can say straight up, we see this stuff happening. We know people in Trump hats are getting attacked. I would never recommend a friend walk around in a city with a Trump hat. I think you'd be crazy to do so. But if somebody walks around in a Bernie Sanders shirt, no one does anything to them. It just doesn't. It's just. So I think he's got another tweet here, and we'll end with this one. He said, CNN held a full-scale gun control rally complete with shaming rituals directed against the NRA and Rubio just a few months ago. They used airtime to let David Hogg slander 2A supporters as callous accessories to murder, but history began today. And I will add to Mr. Shapiro's tweet, as somebody who actually leans more towards gun control, though not as far as probably the mainstream left, you have these activists saying NRA is a terrorist organization. So what do you think someone's going to do on the left when they see an NRA supporter? They're going to say that's a terrorist supporter, right? It's extreme rhetoric. So let me just say this. Everybody, chill the fuck out. Jim Acosta, it's clear that this is like a personal attack on him. I guarantee you many people got jobs in the media thinking they would be revered. There was a time when the journalist was revered. And today, we don't care so much because we can see through the thin veil. We have social media, we have Google, we can fact check, and we can go there. And not only that, when someone on the ground at an event where a Trump supporter is attacked goes on Twitter, goes on Facebook, and posts photos and videos, we can say, we know what happened, we saw what happened, and we don't care what your narrative is, Jim. The reason why I think this tweet is so stupid is because Jim clearly isn't Google searching these things to realize what's going to happen when you tweet something like that out and how people are going to respond to it. So anyway, it's choppy right now because I keep getting a phone call, but stick around. I've got another video, maybe two, coming up in just a few minutes.